And we go live in 3, 2, 1. So we just spent the last hour and a half preparing for the next 2 to 3 weeks of podcasts. And it's quality stuff's gonna be really great. But we didn't prepare anything for today.
Yeah, it's like we put a lot of thought into discussing what future things we want to do, and they're like, oh yeah, what are we talking about today? So literally, we have a rough outline of what we want to talk about today. But we definitely have, like, stay tuned for the next few weeks.
Oh yeah,
we've got some good ideas. We'll talk about it more, I think, at the end of today, of just some ideas we're thinking of down the road. But yeah, a little more loose today, because we really were like putting more thought into things that we kind of want to do down the road. And that's usually how it goes for us, honestly. Like, we spend a lot of time prepping for this podcast, and most of the time it's just talking about things we want to talk about eventually, but maybe not yet. And then usually it's just, let's do a quick outline of what we would want to talk about today, and then we start recording.
Yeah,
like we're doing.
We thought about like doing what we were gonna do next week today, but we're like, don't feel prepared at all. So actually we'll take a little bit of research, a little bit of refreshing our brains. So we're like, oh, we'll do that next week. And then we came up with another idea. We're like, we should do that after that. And we're like, oh, this would be great to do that after that. And now we're like, wait, what are we going to talk about today?
Yeah. So anything. So how are you doing, Cody? You doing good?
I'm good.
Good.
Really good. We had some snow this week.
Oh, nice. We did not in Phoenix, surprisingly. We did not have snow.
I was about to ask you do you have snow too?
No, we did not. It's been in like the 60s and 70s. A little bit in the 50s.
Phoenix ever gotten snow?
I believe it has. It's gotten some flurries. And it also depends. Like, there's some parts of Phoenix that may. Arizona in total does get quite a bit of snow, like up in Flagstaff and stuff like that. Gets a lot of snow. But yeah, Phoenix, I don't know if it's ever been a lot. But I know, like, at least some that's come down, but it usually melts as soon as it like touches the ground. So
right. Yeah, because the pavement like just absorbs the heat.
It
was weird when I was out there because I'm used to like Georgia where, it's in the air. It's humidity when it's hot. But then when I was down there with you, I'm like, when we step outside, I like open the door and I'm like, oh, at nighttime, I'm like, wow, I feel so good. And then I take one step and I just feel heat coming from the ground.
Yeah.
I'm like, what is that?
Like bakes. Yeah.
Yeah. It's
but
crazy.
Like, yeah. But I mean, Georgia doesn't get a ton of snow either, right? So I bet, did everything shut down for like an inch of snow whenever you get that?
Oh my goodness, yes.
Yeah.
There was like, when we got word that it might happen, like in Georgia, it's like, it's either going to snow or going to be 70 degrees. We don't know. It's your pick, but it might snow. Yeah. We all freak out and we all go get like, milk and bread, the two perishable things. And
why is it always milk and bread? I don't know.
I don't know.
Like, let's get what's going to go bad fast.
It's like beans and rice, no. Toilet paper, no. Milk, yes.
Yeah, let's do that.
So
that's
when the power goes out, we'll put our milk outside. So, and the bread, I have no idea. So, yeah, it was hard to get some stuff. Things were shut down. But we did have warnings. So it happened like, I think it was Sunday morning. I woke up, it's just a blanket of snow. And so things really aren't happening on Sunday. Not everybody's going to work that morning. So there's plenty enough warning. So it wasn't super big shutdown, but definitely not a lot of people working Monday. So it was not Snowmageddon. I don't know if people have heard of Snowmageddon that happened, I think it was like 3 or 4 years ago. It was more than that. It was just 5 or 6 years ago. Yeah, Atlanta was just shut down. It was just like some random storm came out of nowhere. And it wasn't that bad, but nobody was prepared.
Well, they're never prepared.
And all of I-85, which is like our main road to get to Atlanta up north, was just completely shut down. So it was like a 2 to 3 day event.
For that. I think didn't something recently happen? I forget where it was at, somewhere in the Northeast, I think, but where like people were stranded for like 2 days on a road because there was an accident or something that blocked it. Yeah, it's crazy.
Was that Virginia?
I don't know. I think
I feel like I read a headline about that.
Yeah. So it's crazy.
I've been on a little bit of a Facebook fast, so I'm not up to par with the news.
I am not either, but so I'm a little bit behind. I usually like anytime it's funny, like this is a random side note, but like we're so used to just assuming that when you put something on social media, everybody knows, right? It's like, okay, people are out there. But I was like telling my wife, I was like, if anything important happens in the family, let me know if you see it on social media, because like I don't see it. So they're going to think I know. And then, because it's on there. But if if you're not on there, people are just going to assume that you
exactly.
saw it. So,
yeah, you told me about maybe like shutting down social media for a little bit. So I did for a little while. And I've got it back up for just tonight. I was just checking like stuff that's going on, but I'm starting to use an app to like shut down certain social media apps for like a certain amount of time. And it's been good. I've been able to like focus a lot more. I still like use my phone. It's not like me not using my phone. It's more about the quality of what I'm using it for. So now instead of mindlessly swiping Facebook or Instagram, now I'm using an app called Duolingo, trying to learn Spanish. That's and then I'm usually looking at Reddit, like different subreddits, which are usually like more informative stuff that I'm interested in.
Yeah.
So I feel like the things that I'm, wasting my time on the toilet is a little more productive. Than,
that key productivity
Facebook
time.
Crap.
Yeah,
exactly.
That's good. Yeah, that's some key time that you're spending on your phone. So yeah, that's good. Yeah, it's sometimes good just to take a break from stuff like that. Just like, take time away, refocus, because I think our brains just get used to it and that like get that into a routine. So I definitely do that of like, looking at my phone and just kind of swiping and then just, not really doing anything with it. From this week, we, as far as like money stuff goes, and I was just thinking of apps. So we like track our budget on an app. We had an interesting thing that I thought I would share of, we were just kind of looking back at the last few months, and we haven't, I don't know about you, but like, I don't know what it is about the end of the year, but we always just have a lot more expenses towards like the last 3 months of the year. And I know there's some like obviously with Christmas or, like Thanksgiving, you're doing a lot more stuff with family and things like that, but just other just random stuff like comes up for us. Like, you got to get we had to renew our registration for our car. Random stuff like that. And it's like, oh yeah, we forgot to budget for that. So we got to make sure we have that. But one thing we ran into is like, we've gotten into a good routine about scheduling, a time kind of at the beginning of the month to plan out the month budget and look at, okay, what do we have going on? What do we foresee? Let's get together and plan that out. But one thing we kind of realized that we hadn't done as well, and so I wanted your thoughts on this too, is when things randomly come up through the month, you need to make sure that you go back and adjust that budget. Otherwise, you're going to be way off or, off in some categories. So for instance, like if you budget a certain dollar amount for vehicle expenses, and then you forget that you need to renew your registration and you pay for that and you didn't budget for it, well, where is that money going to come from, right? If you said you were only allocating this amount to that and you maybe don't have other wiggle room, well, where's that money coming from? It's going to, you need to make sure you reallocate things throughout the month. Now, not saying that, you just overspend, right, on all your categories and then just move it, but making sure that you're like, oh, we had this come up. So where is that money going to come from? Are we going to cut back in another category? Do we need to, make up a little bit more money that we need to, pay for that? Because what we found is just from going through those months is like when we didn't allocate it, we had some maybe some goals for saving or some different categories we wanted it. And then we found that it's like, oh, actually we overspend in something else. And so we should have moved things around, but we didn't adjust it as well as we should have. So that was a big thing that we learned is like, you need to make sure you need to have that initial budget meeting to like plan out, but then as things happen or as things change, make sure you're adjusting your actuals and what actually came in so that you're not way off with like thinking that you have this much money left at the end of the month when reality, like you actually overspent on a lot of stuff.
Right.
Does that make sense? So that's the one thing
so
that we
almost
realized.
like at the end of the month, almost a look back to make sure
Yeah, or
the
just
budget
even
was-
adjusting like throughout the month. Like if you realize like, oh, we just went over in this budget category or we're going to go over, then you need to figure out if you have a zero-based budget, which is what we use, then you need to figure out where is that coming from because you spent it. So you need to reduce another category basically to cover.
Right. Yeah. So that actively, not like a set it and forget it or set it and never adjust it.
And
but
that's kind of what we were
actively
doing.
adjusting.
Yeah.
Yeah. We used to do that with the, I don't use, was it every dollar?
Yeah. That's,
I don't use it anymore. I stopped paying for it, but I mean, we still do budgeting. It's just a spreadsheet right now. But it was nice because you could do like really quickly. You'd be like, oh no, we got something that just came up. Where is it going to come out of? And then you could look and be like, what's left over, or what categories can I pull from? And we'd be like, oh, okay, I guess we're not eating out as much. Pull from food a little bit, pull from this a little bit, and then you could add it to that category that needs it, and then everything would then add up back to zero. Right. You could do like, not like sliders, but you can just like do some adjustments, almost like manipulate the numbers to make it work for you.
Yeah.
And so yeah, that's kind of awesome. So that way everything works out, to be zero.
Yeah, exactly. Because what we, had trouble with is, sometimes we weren't as good of noticing when we went over budget. And so it'd be like in our planned budget, oh, everything's good. But then you look at the actuals, it's like, oh yeah, we didn't adjust it to reflect what actually may have gone over. And so we didn't adjust those categories. And so we overspent a little bit the last few months. And so it just made it where we kind of had to adjust things later and say like, well, we actually didn't, have as much to set aside as we may have actually wanted to. So that was a little bit of a bummer, but now we kind of know, okay, if unexpected things come up, we need to make sure we adjust it in the month, throughout the month as we go. That way it reflects and we don't overspend then, from what we actually had income for, so we don't want to go, in the negative. And for situations like that, I usually keep a little bit of a buffer in our checking. I don't know if you do that as well, but just a little bit. So it's not like, everything I'm budgeting this month is sitting in my checking, just a little bit extra. So if there's any fluctuation in like timing of when I get paid versus when we need to pay a bill, or, just in case we go over on something, it's not like then we're having to pay a bunch of fees because it's pricey if you have overdraft fees. So just a little bit of a buffer just in case.
We definitely have a buffer in the checking account, and then we would also have a buffer in the budget itself, like a something small, like 1% or 2%, just a couple bucks that you could then, instead of having to pull it from something else, you could then pull it from there. And then let's say that you were just spot on that month. Now you got 2% you can just kind of goof off with if you want, or layer it over into the next month.
Yeah, we usually use a like a miscellaneous category because there's always miscellaneous stuff that comes up.
Always.
But for those times when something comes up that you can't just put in miscellaneous, it's not enough, then you definitely need to work. That's what I'm saying of like, you need to adjust other categories for that. Or, figure out how to make it work. Instead of just kind of letting it be and assuming it's fine, you need to make sure your budget reflects that. I guess is what I'm saying, the end goal. So,
and whenever something crazy comes up, if you're like a car registration or your tags or I don't know, property tax or something like that, you're like, oh, crud. That's a thing that happens every year. Well, you want to make sure that you plan for it next year.
Very true.
Put a note somewhere saying that, oh yeah, that's a regular thing that needs to happen. There's sometimes things pop up that nobody expected, like a fee somewhere or just an emergency. Obviously, you use emergency fund for that, but just something that's like just comes up and it's like, I didn't expect that, but it's necessary. Then if it's not in the budget, you can use your emergency fund. But if it's in the budget, that's great for that miscellaneous. But then when that comes up and it's something that's repeated, make a note of it. I've got a vague like yearly budget that I use.
Okay.
Where I list just everything that is an expense, and then usually put like a date of when I should expect it. And then it's just like a guide. So when I'm looking at my monthly, I could look through and say, oh yeah, last year, car tags. You got to renew those. Those are $20 a piece. I've got 2 cars. And then whenever there's a major life change, like now you got 3 cars, or maybe you sold a car or something like that, you need to go back to that overall budget and say, I don't have that many cars anymore. Let's drop that down. Or, I have an extra car. I need to, add that. And then also remember, inflation 7%. So most likely everything is more expensive than last time.
Yeah, that's
and
true.
Especially this year.
Yeah.
So like my oil change went up and I had no idea. So I'm just like expecting, $40, rotate the tires, give me an oil change, full synthetic, all that's good stuff. And they're like, yeah, they'll be 55. And I'm like, wait, what?
Yeah.
So,
it hurts.
You got to do it. They already did it.
Right.
And I didn't pay attention to ask how much it was going to be.
Because you just assume it'd stay the same. So that's true. This year especially, like, don't assume that things are going to be the same. Because I think things are going up. That's another thing that I thought about we could talk about sometime is like, I don't know if people have heard like cash is trash. Like that's gone around a lot, especially during times of inflation. Like I've heard that a lot of just people saying like cash is trash. And like what, basically what they mean by that is, if you have cash just sitting there, it's pretty much losing value. If inflation is like, 7% like it is, that means your money's worth 7% less than it was last year if it was just sitting in cash. But a good thing about like owning assets like stock is those go up to reflect inflation, right? Like as it grows, it should beat inflation, hopefully in the long run. But cash that's just sitting there, it's kind of a unfortunate thing of, it's not making you any money. So it's actually losing money or value. But yeah, that's another thing to reflect in next year's budget. Even too, like I've seen people say like, if inflation is 7% and you got like a 3% raise this year, that means you actually got a pay decrease of 4%. You're actually making a little bit less technically than you were last year, which is crazy to think. We're like 3%, that's amazing. That'd be great. But it's like, no, if inflation's that high, the difference, you actually have less buying power than you did last year. So interesting. I
saw a meme of that where it's the guy that like just puts his thumbs up and he's like smiles even though he looks like he's dying inside.
Yeah.
And it's just like gets 3% raise, 7% inflation. It's just him like,
yay, great. Yeah.
Yay.
Exactly. So that's funny. But that's good advice. At least so I appreciate your thoughts on that. But that was something my wife and I learned as we went through the budget of the last few months. We were like, we were not adjusting as well as we should have. Good planning on the front end, but definitely adjust throughout the month. And so something we kind of learned, and we'll try to do better.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Another thing I thought we could talk about, I just finished a little bit ago. I finished Millionaire Next Door, which is it's one of those iconic like personal finance books, right? It's like
I think I've got it over here somewhere.
It's like one of those books that people always list of like, that's the one, the great book.
Right here.
There it is.
Yeah. I've never actually read it.
I've read. You're very proud about owning it and pulling it up. Like, there it is.
Got it.
I've never read it. That's amazing.
I love this. Like, this book is almost like a textbook. So the fact that you like read it word for word, the whole thing is just impressive to me.
Yeah.
Because like,
I would say
there's stories, but dense. Like it's almost like a textbook.
It really is. And so I don't know. I don't want to say like I was disappointed with it. It was a good book. The principles in it were very good. It is not an easy read. It tries to tell stories a little bit, but really all it is, basically the book is just survey results and data. And then each chapter is explaining different parts of the data. That makes sense. And like, this is what this means. And this is what we extrapolated from it. And they use stories, but really it's just telling an example of what that could have looked like. Right. So yeah, it's not the easiest read. It is a little dense, but the principles in it I thought were really good. I really liked it. I kind of got the hype on it on that. And really in essence, like just realizing, I mean, the fact that what we think millionaires or quote rich people live like and look like, and then when you actually, get into practice, how they actually look and the difference between them. I thought it was very interesting. And how they buy, how they think about buying, the type of work that they do. Not that it's tied to their work, but that, seeing the percentages of this amount of people, either own their own business and seeing how many of those people are millionaires. We kind of talked about that last week. About, you don't have to own your own business to be a millionaire, but it does seem to be like, the people that do tend to do pretty well.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought that was interesting. The one feedback I had with the book is it is a little older. And a lot of the examples are kind of older examples. I don't know exactly when all of the data was collected, for it.
I think it was in the 90s.
Was it? Okay. So a lot of the numbers, I'm like, yeah, that's funny. Like it's way off than what we experience today. So I guess that would be the one thing that I'd say I thought was not as applicable is a lot of the numbers were way off what we actually see today.
It was published in 96.
Okay.
But his interest in the preface, he mentioned since 1980 that he was interested in millionaires. And so I guess his interest was sparked in 1980, but I think the study happened a couple years before the book was published. So probably early 90s or mid 90s or something like that.
Yeah. That was one thing I didn't love about it. It did seem a little older, dated. And it's hard to believe that 90s is old and dated, but that
I know, right?
That was a while ago. So,
yeah.
So I just thought some of the examples
this book was made,
right? Some of the exampple weren't as applicable, I thought, but otherwise I think it's a good book. So if you haven't read it, I would recommend if you can get through it, Cody. That's the question. Maybe find an audio version. I don't know if that'd be better, but there are a lot of charts and stuff. So it's a little bit like a textbook.
To get through something similar, like if you want basically the gist of this, but it's an easier read, just read Everyday Millionaire by Chris Hogan.
And I haven't read that one, so maybe I got through the difficult one.
You got through the difficult one. Yeah. I made the choice because I got both. I used one for reference, and then the other one I was like, I listened to it, the audiobook. And Chris Hogan's voice, it's very nice. Very nice.
He does have a nice, calming voice.
Hard to run to. I wanted to fall asleep sometimes because he's just like so like
relaxing,
melatonin, and just like I don't know. It's hard to explain. So it's like Morgan Freeman's like long lost Southern brother,
Yeah.
And anyway, it was hard to run to, but very good in my opinion. And it's very similar idea, but it was I think 10,000 millionaires were interviewed, and the data was pulled from that. They said that it's the largest study of millionaires ever done, I think, since this book. The Millionaire Next Door. I don't remember how many is in this one, in this study. But anyway,
I don't know if they ever listed it. Study. I'm trying to remember. Yeah, it was pretty big, but that 10,000 is pretty sizable.
It's basically the same thing.
Is it?
This one's a little more detailed into like the psychology of like what you were saying, like why they make purchases, why they do the things that they do. Everyday Millionaire is a little bit more of like just a couple of success stories, and then the kind of the how-to, which is basically just like Dave Ramsey's system, and then a couple more like success stories, and then a few failure stories, which are pretty. They pull on your heartstrings, so it's pretty good.
Okay, I'll have to check that one out because that's one I haven't read. Trying to think, I was looking back at other books I've read, this year. I tried to read more books last year. That's what I mean. I still every time I still say this year, meaning 2021.
It's okay. I still write 2021 when I'm like dating
and scratch it, and then
it's really bad.
Did the two. Beginning of last year, I read Master Your Money by Ron Blue. Which I thought it was pretty good, but that one again, it's not an easy read. Do you have that one? Have you read that one?
I have not.
It's just going to be me listing books, Cody holding it up, and then never reading it.
I've had this book since our internship. We both were given a copy, and I am ashamed to say I've not read this book yet. Yeah. I'm sorry whoever gave me this book. I forgot his name.
It is a little more like a textbook. I'd say even more like a workbook. Like there's plenty of spots where he's like, fill in your information here and work through to your numbers. Some of the examples again are a little older, so the numbers used is like, yeah, that's way off. But the principles of it, I think we've talked through on previous ones. I thought that was pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
I've read a lot. Like I read a lot of different kinds of books. The other money books that I read, so yeah, Millionaire Next Door, and then I had never read Total Money Makeover, and so I wanted just to read it, just to see what Dave Ramsey had to say, and get his thoughts on things. And I thought it was a pretty good book. I thought it was well laid out, laying out what he thinks and kind of his plan and some examples and stuff like that of walking through it. So I thought it was a pretty good book. I thought it's a good basics, basic stuff, nothing too crazy, and it's typical Dave stuff,
Yeah.
All the things you're expecting Dave Ramsey to say, it's that kind of stuff. But I at least wanted to read it so I could say that I've read it and understand it. And then yeah, this last one, reading Millionaire Next Door, thought it was pretty good.
Yeah.
So, what about you?
Last year or this year?
Well,
I haven't read any books
last
this year.
Okay, not finished any yet.
I've got some.
I think I'm about halfway through one. So
yeah, I got some goals, but last year I read. I actually didn't read any financial books.
Wow.
Yeah, they were
That's
mostly
impressive.
like.
Yeah, most of the other ones were not financial. Those were the few.
What kind of
that I actually
non-financial did you read?
Let's see. I read
Because my list has none financial, so you're gonna have to like help me out here.
Okay, I read some more like I don't want to say self-help, but like helpful stuff. A lot of like leadership books, stuff like that. Some just like biographies. Yeah, that's mostly been the other stuff. Kind of like that business leadership type books.
Yeah,
too. Read some of those.
Yeah, that's kind of what I did. I don't read a lot, so when I say I read these, they're actually audiobooks. I do like
That's fair.
a lot of podcasts, and then
Okay.
if there's a book that's interesting, I'll usually listen to it, and every once in a while I'll read one. I read a lot more a couple of years ago than I do now. Now I have a different job, right? I drive a lot, whereas
Right,
my
so the
last job I
audiobooks
was
make
at home a
sense.
lot.
Yeah.
So like in a break, I could just like open up a book for 30 minutes and then close and go back to work. Now I'm driving like 24/7, so it's just listening.
Right.
But I did the audiobook for 12 Rules of Life or For Life by Jordan Peterson.
Gotcha.
And that's
I
just
haven't
one of
read
those
that
like
one yet.
that's like a classic. Like you say, hey, what's a book I should read? And everybody says 12
That
Rules
somebody
for Life.
says, yeah.
Yeah. So it's yeah, it is what it is. It's you could probably just get the list of the 12 rules on Wikipedia and get the bulk of the book.
And you'd
But
be
it
like,
is
good.
fun to listen to Jordan Peterson talk. So
Okay,
and
so
he
if
does
it's
explain
him recording it, that'd be interesting. But otherwise, just look
yeah.
up the 12 rules and you got the book. Is that pretty much it?
Yeah, basically.
Okay.
And so the audiobook is good if you want to like hear his Kermit the Frog voice just talking. And that's the only way I could describe it. But it's like it's a nice voice. Like it's cool. But
it is Kermit the Frog.
mildly
That's funny.
Kermit. And he explains his and there's actually some parts that are extra in the audiobook where he like goes and dives into deeper about certain topics. So that was good. Let's see, last year I also read Can't Hurt Me by David Goggins. Do you know who David Goggins is?
Mm.
He's
I think that sounds somewhat familiar, but I haven't heard of the book.
He's a Navy
name
SEAL. He was it's hard to explain like what he is. He's nowadays he's more of like a motivation, doing stuff that's really difficult.
That's
usually
right.
in like
Okay.
ultra running, marathon running. His podcast with Joe Rogan is what inspired me to get into was kind of what helped me inspire me to get into running and like
Nice.
pushing myself and some of his like mental ideas of how to like push yourself and how your body can do more than what you think it can, even if it's related to like studying or working out or your attitude or something like that. So that was a really good one. And then it was audiobook as well. And so after every chapter, David Goggins would give like some extra backstory, but it's basically his life and then rules that he created during his life of how he did different obstacles, like Navy SEAL training, buds, some rough stuff he had in his childhood, overcoming several like ultra marathons, and
Wow. That's cool.
yeah, so that's pretty good.
I'll have to check that one out.
I read Born to Run, which is another running book, which is it's pretty interesting.
It's a good song.
Just like another yeah. Listen to
It's a good song
Bruce
too.
Springsteen the whole time that I'm
You
running.
just listened to it for 2 hours. Just Bruce Springsteen.
It's like I got the Born to Run audiobook. It's Bruce Springsteen, like on repeat,
Just on loop.
30 times.
That's amazing.
And then I read Fortitude by Dan Crenshaw, who is a Texas representative. And he's also a Navy SEAL. So his is more about, kind of similar to David Goggins, but a little bit more about like mental fortitude, how to push through, how to block negativity, and how to have the proper mindset. So that's basically last year. So 4 books. So
nice. I'll have to check out some of those. The one that I just thought of that you're talking about with Navy SEALs, I did read Extreme Ownership this year, which is like it's written by Jocko. I don't know if you know Navy SEAL.
A little bit, yeah.
So he's really cool.
What was the name of that
like
again?
a boss dude. Extreme Ownership.
I'm writing that down.
So it was a very good book. But it just made me think of it since you mentioned like 2 Navy SEAL books. But he's a really cool dude. And so it was a very good book about just principles of how they operate and then relating that over to business. That was kind of the main application, was how do you take a principle like that and then how do you actually apply it, rather than like, well, cool, I'm not in that kind of a situation. It's actually like walking you through, okay, here's what we practiced and here's how you can implement it as well. And it's really cool stuff. Just about like holding yourself accountable. And then, how, if you want to succeed, just like owning up to mistakes and owning the entire process, making it better, that kind of stuff.
Nice.
Yeah, it was good. So that's another
just
good
wrote
one.
that down. I'm gonna look that one up.
Yeah, it was good.
Sweet.
Real quick, I feel like everybody talks about this in January, but do you have any New Year's resolutions? I feel like that's the thing to ask each other. That's a good
more
one.
Than 4.
More than 4.
Yeah.
Any goal at all? Just greater than 4. That's all that matters.
Greater than or equal to 4.
Okay.
Yeah, that's fair.
Was that, well, I'm assuming, did you listen to more books, like audiobooks, or was it just those 4?
No, that is all the audiobooks that I listened to last year.
But you said podcasts, right? You said
a lot of podcasts.
Okay, that's fine. You're still getting some knowledge in there. So
yeah, it's the bulk is podcasts. I forgot. I did start a few books, and they were just terrible, and I took them back on Audible.
Well,
to get
don't waste your time. Yeah.
And then I did start 0 to 1, and I forgot the author's name.
I've heard of that one. Yeah.
I forgot the author's name. But I started that one, but I haven't finished it yet.
Did you make it to? Did you make it to 1?
I did make it to 1. Yeah.
Or did you stop on 0? Okay, good.
Yeah. I just buy it, and that's my 1.
It's done. Yeah. That's awesome.
There we go. I made it from 0 to 1. I think I read the Latte Factor too last year, maybe. But anyway, yeah, New Year's resolution: read more. I've got some business goals for the company.
Cool.
To almost double what our sales was last year, and maybe hire on some more employees. Awesome. So some goals there. But I'm not a huge New Year's resolution guy, just because I try to, like, if I think that there's something that needs to change or I need to adjust, I try to think like I don't need to be waiting till the next year to do this.
Exactly.
Like if it's important, I should probably start now. But I have to admit, like the new year does just bring this like new sense of rejuvenation and makes you want to like tackle and go sign up at the gym or something,
Yeah.
So,
I feel like it's because we just let ourselves go at the end of the year. That by the beginning of the year, we just want to get everything like, organized in our life, and we're gonna do great. And then once like February, March hits, it's like, well, I guess it's fine how it was. We're really not. We kind of go back. I'm more of a fan, and I'm becoming more of a fan of like monthly goals. I've been doing that lately, and I found that's a lot better. Or just seasonal goals. Like I'll have goals that's like, well, between now and like May, this is what I want to do. And then from, June to, August or September, something like that, like breaking the year up. Because really, I don't have a lot that are like, this year I want to do something. It's more maybe for a few months, I want to focus on this, and then I'll add something else, maybe later on in the year. So I really don't have like total year ones. I always want to read more. I think I read about 10 books last year. But I'd love to get to where I'm doing a few books a month. That would be great. And just taking the time to read. I want to keep up. I'm doing okay as far as like working out and fitness, but I want to keep doing more stuff like that. So I'm starting to try to break it up a little bit more rather than tackling like 5 goals I want to do for a year. Like right now, I'm just like, what's one thing I think would be helpful for me to do in January? And then I'm just going after that thing. Just like, okay, let's work on implementing that habit or whatever I want to, would do. Rather than trying to figure out, what my 5 goals for the year are, and then I'm going to forget them next month. Yeah. So at least try to do stuff that I can actually start on and then go from there into that. So, but that's kind of where I'm at for this year. I'm trying to think. I don't know if I have any like financial goals. I mean, I think we're kind of just like keeping doing what we're doing, within, investing and saving, and just kind of keep working our plan in that route. So that's kind of the main goal for us.
We're kind of on a holding pattern as far as like our goal is to obviously we want to buy a house, but I don't have to tell everybody that the housing market's a little insane.
It's a little nuts,
and doesn't look like it's going to stop anytime soon. So every time we save up enough money, we're like, yeah, that's a good down payment. We can afford this amount of house, and then that amount of house is not enough to to buy something, and we're like, oh, okay, then we gotta wait a little longer. And so right now we're in the same. It's just like a holding pattern. Just keep trusting the system. We'll get there eventually, but we are like really focusing this year on at least searching, trying to find a good deal, find something we can afford. So we're definitely more active. We were a little bit more active last year, but this year we're already looked at a few.
Really pushing for that.
Yeah, really pushing for it. So if the market holds or, if it doesn't, we'll be ready for whatever. But we are definitely being proactive in the housing area.
Cool. Yeah, that's good stuff. So yeah, I think we'll probably have to wait a little bit longer just with how crazy Phoenix is. It's really hard to get anything right now, and everything's kind of out of our price range. So, but yeah, we're similar where that's kind of something we're working towards, but we're just kind of being patient with it, and working up. And I think we'll get there. It'll work out. Yeah. In the end, by the time we get there. So nothing too immediate with that this year. So it's more just working our plan this year and then kind of seeing in years down the road. But yeah, I think that's it. I think we're running about on time. So Cody, did you want to talk about finally what we're thinking next week?
What everybody's been waiting for. I need a drum roll. You got a drum roll?
I can't get a good sound on this mic, but like
let me see if I get it. Like, I'm sure people are hearing this right now. I probably just ruined the mic. I'm sorry, guys. Rip ears. Yeah. So we are going to start I guess it's a series. I don't know if we want to call it a series, but
we'll see how long it lasts.
We'll see how long it lasts. We're going to do one, and then we're going to get your input on how we want to move forward. So next week, be ready to listen and give us some feedback. Want to know what you think. But we're going to do a financial guru review.
Boom. I mean, we should just trademark the name right there.
Guru review.
Guru review.
It sounds dumber the more I say it. I'm going to stop saying it.
Yeah. Say it once and that's it. Then
it was a great idea at first. But we're going to do a guru review. And the financial guru we're going to review next week is Dave Ramsey.
So we're going to start with Dave.
We're going to start with Dave.
But the general idea, then we'll see how this comes out next week, is we're gonna every few weeks we're gonna pick a kind of guru out there, and maybe one that we don't know a lot about. So it could be like, we have a week to figure out, okay, what does that person say? What's their advice that they give, their kind of plan? What are the pros, cons? What do we like about it? Or maybe our personal opinion on it. Would we recommend it? Not kind of a breakdown and a discussion about their viewpoints and what we like about it and what maybe we don't like as much.
Exactly.
So it should be a little bit of the positive, negative. It's not going to be like us just ripping on or like,
I don't know, man. I think we should just do like people roasting the whole time.
Yeah. So hopefully it's not all roasting. It's a little bit of like breaking down what they actually say and think, and then giving some analysis and discussion about it, about, how we feel.
Yeah. So we'll start out with next time. I'm going to say next week, most likely, but the next
Hopefully
episode, whenever we get to record it, will be on Dave Ramsey. So we're going to take some time to study. We've studied Dave Ramsey a long time. We've talked about his books, but we're going to open up the books again, read some articles, make sure that we're refreshed and know exactly what Dave and the Ramsey group preach, teach, and everything. And then we want to kind of give our thoughts on it. One, explain it to you if you have never heard of the systems that they teach, and then give what our thoughts on it. Good, positive, probably going to be mostly positive, but we'll give critiques if we have any, and then
I'll throw down some negatives. I'm just kidding.
We're ready. And if you listen to his radio show, you'll find some negatives.
Yeah.
But then afterwards, we'll see how you guys liked it, and we'll start doing the same thing to other gurus, and we'll study it, especially ones that we don't know. Like Will said, I'm actually excited about that because there's a lot of people out there. Even people that aren't that famous, but people that are on like Instagram all the time with their program, or they're talking about like what they did. We'd like to study them. We'd like to get your thoughts on it.
It's helpful to know exactly what they say, like what do they think? And we might learn something. Get some
let us know if you guys have someone you want us to look into. Maybe wait till next week to see how the episode goes. And then give us an idea. You're like, hey, let's look at Grant Cardone. Let's look at what's the guy's name?
We said
Robert
Kiyosaki. Yeah, like Susie Orman, like all those kind of people. Like I'd be interested. Like let's do a deep dive into what they say, because I think there could be some helpful stuff, and then see maybe some stuff we don't like. But,
exactly. So if you guys like that, let us know. But next week we will be doing a deep dive into our first guru review of Dave Ramsey. So
and then we already have a plan for 2 weeks from now, which we're not going to say yet, but we've got some ideas for even 2 weeks. Well, or 2 episodes from now.
We spent a whole hour and a half on it.
So we're excited. Hopefully got some good things coming down the pipeline.
We've actually been thinking about doing this a long time. This one's not just a recent idea. We've
been contemplating reviews of other
all last year. We've been thinking about doing this. So we feel like we're ready to go, but we want to get a week to do some studying to make sure that we're prepared and give our analysis, our take on Dave Ramsey and some others. So looking forward to it. Well, anyway, if you guys like that, if you guys like this episode, please let us know. Go to our website, www.willandcody.com. If you got a topic you want us to talk about, let us know, and hit us up on social media as well. We're on TikTok, Instagram. The podcast is on Spotify, Apple Podcast, all that good stuff. I want to say this before I go. I saw Spider-Man again.
We always have to come back to Spider-Man.
Every episode is going to talk about Spider-Man.
It's just going to become a Spider-Man podcast. That's it.
I've never seen IMAX before in my life. I saw it.
Not?
I've never experienced IMAX. And
that's a good movie too, to see it.
It was so good. I'm at loss of words, but I didn't mean to see it a third time, but I was at a bachelor party and they're like, let's go see Spider-Man. I'm like, I can watch some Spider-Man.
Yeah.
So I watched
especially
it in IMAX,
dude. IMAX is gorgeous.
Midnight with a Diet Pepsi, which is, they didn't have Diet Coke and it was sad, but we'll leave it at that. Spider-Man was good and the IMAX was good.
Yeah. Dude, IMAX is awesome. I'm a huge fan of IMAX. It's great.
Yeah. So
anyway,
we're gonna leave the podcast on IMAX. Go see a movie in IMAX. It's awesome.
Trust me, it's amazing.
Like it's a whole nother experience.
Yeah. Can't recommend
Cool.
it enough.
I don't know how to end the podcast now, so I'm just going to
That's
say
it.
bye. Okay.
See you guys.
That's it, guys. See ya.